So today we're going to be reading from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, continuing our series. Before we start, we'll start off with a little introductory video bringing you in tune with the program. Interesting. All right. Maybe you all didn't get to see that properly. Did you see it properly or no? Let me give it one more try. And welcome back. Thought I'd create something interesting for this. All right, so we're on Bhagavad Gita chapter 9, as I was saying earlier, and let's get started. So in the earlier part of this chapter, Krishna has been saying something very interesting. I'm going to give you a short summary of some of the points there. First, he tells Arjun that because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. And he went on to say how by me in my unmanifest form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. Although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I am everywhere, I am not part of this cosmic manifestation, for myself is the very source of creation. The whole cosmic order is under me. Under my will, it is automatically manifested again and again. Under my will, it is annihilated at the end. Now, I'm kind of going through these a little faster because we actually talked about them last time. But I know that some of you are new here, and so for your sake, I'm kind of repeating what we read last time. So, this material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the Supreme Lord of all that be. I am the father of this universe, the mother, the support, the grandsire, as in grandfather, ancestor. I am the object of knowledge, the purifier, and the Vedic syllable Om. I am the goal, the sustainer, the master, the witness, the abode, the refuge, and the most dear friend. I am the creation and the annihilation, the basis of everything, the resting place, and the eternal seed. And then those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and preserve what they have. All right, so that's a handful to take because Krishna is basically saying that he is the origin of this material world, of all that is, right? In fact, if we go back a little bit, he even says it here in an earlier verse where he says that he is the source of all material and spiritual worlds, and everything emanates from him. The wise, knowing this, worship him with their heart. So there's a lot in here. Yeah? Getting an echo from someone. Okay. So I want you to know that you can question anytime you like. If there's any question that comes in your mind, feel free to raise your hand and I will gladly bring you in to ask you questions. Hi Rima, hi Krisha, hi Joanne. Welcome everyone. Hey. Okay. So, From the high, then there's another one here from the earlier chapter. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode never takes birth again. So, going from there, if you have any questions up to that point, ask me, then I'll go forward. Those I have actually explained in earlier sessions, so I'm not explaining them now, but you're welcome to ask me any questions before I continue. Please feel free to ask. You don't have to feel shy or awkward. If you want, you can write your question in the text if that's more comfortable for you. If you're not inclined to get on the video, that's fine. We are live streaming this, so if you don't want to be on the video, that's perfectly okay. Just write your questions down. If you don't mind getting on the video, go ahead, just raise your hand and I'll let you in and you can ask your question. All right, since there's no one, I'm going to continue. Those who are devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship only me, but they do so in a wrong way. So there is no saying here that you cannot worship someone else. In fact, the fact of the matter is that every one of us worships something or someone, right? You might worship money, you might worship sex, you might worship fame, politics, power, you might worship any number of things, a movie star, a music idol, whatever it is that you adore, revere, worship, look up to. There are many who also worship other gods and demigods. There's people who worship Ganesh and others who worship Shiva and Durga and so many other devatas, as we call them in Sanskrit. And they feel that that is sufficient and there's no need for anyone to be worshipping Krishna. Actually, one of the big reasons that people don't worship Krishna, let me give it to you right straight up, is because the others are very easy to please and they give you what you want. And Krishna doesn't. Krishna is not interested in that kind of barter. You know, you give me your devotion and I shall give you whatever you desire. Krishna is not interested in playing Santa Claus. He's not interested in being your wish fulfilling genie. He's not interested in any of that. So for those who want that, this is the wrong place to be. Right? If they want God who's going to fulfill all their desires and make them feel good and just solve their problems, right? Don't come to Krishna. Don't bother. Because here there is one simple exchange. The devotee understands first and foremost who Krishna is. When you understand who Krishna is, that he is the supreme Godhead, the source of all creation, the energy that pervades the entire universe. So whether you think of God as a person, whether you think of God as an energy, or whether you think of God as something that lies within all of us, either way, Krishna says, I'm all of that. Pervades the universe. I am the being that is the supreme being. And I am also that which lives in everyone's heart as the Paramatma, the great soul that is in everyone's heart, along with your soul. There is another force, that is the Paramatma, the great soul, that lives with you, that lives within you, and is ready to guide you at any moment, if you're willing to listen, of course. So there is no place that he is not, right? And he's even going so far as to say, no matter who you worship, no matter who it is you worship, doesn't matter, you're worshiping me. Ultimately, I am the origin of everything. I am the source of everything. And whatever you choose to worship will ultimately come to me. But you're doing it in a way that is not very effective. The reason that we come to Krishna is for love, for the highest experience in the universe, the greatest experience of all. Because without love, there is nothing. Think of all the people who are on their deathbeds, and when they've been asked, what is it you wish you'd spent more time doing? What is it that you wish you had done more? And it's never been that they said, well, it's rarely been, I don't know of any case, but from those who've been along with people at their bedside, they've always said, I wish I'd spend more time with my family. I wish I'd spend more time with my loved ones. I wish I had loved more. I wish I had given more. I wish I had, yeah, that ultimately it comes down to love. It comes down to relationships. And so Krishna is saying very clearly, that is the highest experience of all. And that is what he stands for. He is the origin of love, and he is the place you go if you want to find the greatest love of all. Now, whether you go to the Sufis or you go to the Christians, you go to any place that is talking about any kind of spirituality, ultimately it will land up with love. Whether you talk to the Buddhist who talks of compassion, compassion is a form of love, right? If you talk to the Vedantist who wants to reach the light and come to the light, ultimately behind that they will also have to develop the qualities of compassion and kindness and love. Behind everything is love, and Krishna is the epitome of that love. See, Krishna continues here in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, I am the only enjoyer and the master of all sacrifices. Therefore, those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature fall down. Those who worship the demigods will take birth amongst the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. But those who worship me will live with me. In another place, he says that wherever and whatever your mind is fixed on, right, whatever your consciousness is at the time of death, that will determine where you go after leaving this body. It's a very powerful statement, because we always wonder, at least in the Abrahamic religions, they'll talk about going to heaven or going to hell. Krishna's not about heaven or hell. There's no heaven or hell. He's talking about you will go where your consciousness is. What is your consciousness? It's the sum total of your spiritual evolution, of where you're at. You can call it that. It's the sum total of all that you've done in your life, the spiritual practices, the karmic work that you've done, whatever it is you've done in your life. The sum total of that will be your consciousness at the time of death. Actually, it's your consciousness right now. It's your consciousness at any time, right? Your consciousness is determined by all that you have put into yourself through the course of this life. And of course, you can add to it the previous lifetimes as well, but that's where you're at. And that's where you'll be at the time of death. So you've heard of the time when people are dying, they often remember their entire life, especially if there's a more tragic and sudden death. Their whole life will flash by in front of them, so many people say. That's because they are recalling, they are being presented with all that they've done in the course of their life. And there's a review of that happening. That review actually continues after they leave the body. They review all that they've done. So whatever you've worshipped, whatever you've devoted yourself to, whatever you've put your energy into, that has shaped your consciousness. And that consciousness is now going to determine where you go after you leave this body. Here Krishna is saying, those who worship the demigods like Ganesh or Durga or Shiva, or whoever the demigod devtas are, will take birth amongst the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. And those who worship me will live with me. What does it mean to live with Krishna? He's talked about it earlier. He says that one who comes to my abode never returns to this temporary and miserable world. He talks about how his abode, his place, is a place where, yes, you can live as the light, as many yogis wish to do. They wish to merge with the light and become one with the light. But you can also be there as a non-physical being. Now, this idea of non-physical beings is not something everyone's clear about, although in some religions, like in Christianity, they talk about angels. They are also non-physical beings, right? When I've done past life regressions with people, they talk about being greeted by non-physical beings. These are beings that they come across in the light. Now, in the light are planets where non-physical beings live. And they live with with that aspect of God that they have worshipped. Of all the planets in the spiritual world, the highest is considered Goloka Vrindavan, the planet of Krishna. And one who has worshipped him goes there. Why does one go there? What does one want to do there? What's the point of being there? Like, why is that better than being in the light? Right? Being in the light means you no longer are, you have no physical form, therefore, you no longer need to worry about birth and death. You are free of all suffering, and you get to be in peace. That's the attraction of being in the light. But being on one of the spiritual planets along with Krishna, particularly along with Krishna, is to be in a place where you also no longer have a physical form. You're not just a speck within the light, but you now have a non physical form. Okay, that is not subject to birth, death, old age, or disease. You are able to enjoy eternity with Him, playing pastimes, fun, enjoyable, wonderful pastimes. It's not about angels and harps, but this is about picnics and oceans and rivers and you name it. Just whatever you can think of, you can create instantly. And whatever you want to play. Today, let's go out on a flying magic carpet ride. All right, let's go. And boom, as you think it, it happens. And you're able to create instantly experiences because you're not limited by physical stuff. You're not limited by technology. You're not limited by the capabilities of what a human can do and cannot do. You want to fly, you can fly. Right? You want to do cartwheels in the clouds, you can do cartwheels in the clouds. There's nothing stopping you. Right? There's no gravity that you have to deal with. There's no physical body that you're limited by, and there is no material world that is there to bind you with any force that you might have. Yes, Rima. You did? They should have had one, or did they have one? Oh, there is one. Tell me about it. Mm-hmm. It does. In this case, you get to be with Krishna, and but the only people who get to be there are people who have that quality of love, not jealousy, not envy, not fear. I've often said to people, I said, if you landed up in heaven the way you guys are right now, if you just think that just because you've accepted someone as your savior or whatever, and you land up in heaven, you're going to make hell out of heaven because you guys have made hell out of this earth. You're going to take that same thinking over there. So, therefore, one has to really work through a process of cleansing the heart and mind to be able to come to that place of Shuddha Bhakti, pure devotion. Pure devotion is unmotivated, uninterrupted, and it's like there is no conditionality to it. It's unconditional love. So I believe that what we come here for to this earth is to learn unconditional love. What is unconditional love? No conditions. Simple. I love you no matter what. And that's why we are subjected to so many trials and tribulations. And will you then say, God, if there is a God, how can there be a God if there is suffering on this planet? No, that is not the attitude of someone who is a lover of God. The lover of God says, bring me more. If there is suffering, like Kunti said, Queen Kunti, she said, if I notice, she says, that when there are problems, I think of you more, she's saying to Krishna. When there are problems, I think of you more. And if that's the only way that I can think of you, then give me more problems. Now, I'm not going to ask you to repeat this prayer. This is a very tough one. Kunti could handle it. But for most of us, try and understand we turn to God when there are problems, when the going gets tough. And that shouldn't be the only time, you know. You want to turn to God in the good times, in all times, in the good and the bad, not because you need help, but because you want to stay connected, not because you have some desires, but because you desire Him. What does it mean, desire God? Actually, the summation of all desires, the ultimate desire of all, is to desire God, to desire relationship with God, to desire to be with God. That is the highest desire. And of course, while you're in this world, you have other desires and you will need other things. But keep that as your foremost desire. You know how some people have a desire? I mean, they have the regular desires. I want to have ice cream. I want to have a drink. I want to have a nice meal. I want to go on a vacation. And then you start raising the bar. And ultimately, I want to have a house. Oh, yes, I want a nice house. That's their ultimate desire, right? So you have a gradation of desires. Let your ultimate desire be that I want to be with God. Why would you want to be with God? Just so you can have a good time? Yeah, that's one reason. So you can be free of suffering? That's another good reason. So you can, what else? What would be your reason? Why would you want to leave this planet with all of its dramas and stories? Why would you want to go from here? Tell me, what's your thought? Would you want to go in the first place? Maybe I'm overstepping here. Maybe you just want to be here. Maybe it's all right with you that we get old, we get diseased, we die. And okay, that's it. That's fine. No problem. And I don't mind coming back again and again and again and experiencing this. Is there anyone here who's not okay with that? Not okay with that. Everyone's okay with that? Okay. Tell me why you're okay with that then. Are you just being quiet? Are you actually okay with that? You're okay with going through birth, death, old age, and disease, and then coming back again and again and repeating the same. Rinse, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. Done with that. Okay, you want a better possibility. All right. So that's why I'm asking. Like, if you're done with that, then we need to explore what's a better possibility. Because one thing's for certain, this world is a place of suffering. And if you want to deny that, I'd love to hear your viewpoint on it. Because here we are all subject to, right now we're living in a pandemic. We have all kinds of fears of how we might get infected, what might happen. Is the disease going to get us? Is the virus going to get us? I'm sorry, is the vaccine going to get us? Is this going to get us? Is that? People are living with so much of fear today because they don't want to suffer, because they don't want to die, right? Ultimately, what if you knew that you cannot die? What if you knew that you would never get old? What if you knew that you would never suffer? What if you knew that you could never get sick? There is a part of you that is like that. That is your soul. That soul never gets sick, never gets old, never dies. It's amazing. Even when you die, it leaves the body, and it's just like it comes out of the body like, all right, that was an amazing trip. Whoo-hoo. Ah, gosh. Let me just do a little flying around out here. Let me just kind of check this out. Oh God, these people are still there with that body. They're still trying to figure out what happened to me. Yeah, but I'm fine. I'm good, right? It's left the body. He's still fine. He's not worried about it. But the people are crying. They're hurt. They're sad. They're going to miss this person. This person is fine. Death is actually an illusion because no one dies. No one is ever born. No one ever dies. Think about that one. And therefore, fear is also an illusion. Fear is necessary while you're in this body because it'll protect you from, let's say, jumping off a cliff. It'll protect you from swallowing some poison. Sure, it can be useful. But taken too far, it can be paralyzing. It can lead to anxiety. It can lead to all kinds of problems if you let it go out of hand. So it's important to balance things out, to recognize that yes, I am living in a material world, in a physical body, and that has its limitations, but I'm also a spiritual being who never dies and was never born, never gets old. So while I don't like getting old and I don't like getting sick, I also need to keep in mind The reason I don't like to get old and I don't like to get sick, and the reason I seek love and the reason I seek happiness and the reason for all those things that I look for is because that's really who I am. That's the bottom line. That's why everyone in this world, right down every creature in this world, doesn't want to die. Every being in this world doesn't want to die. Every being in this world is looking for love and for happiness. At the level of a cockroach, that happiness might be finding some food or some animal, might be being able to hunt. And for a human being, it might be having a nice house and a car. But ultimately, we want happiness, right? Even the animal loves their offspring, right? So there is a love. You can't deny it. You look at a cow with her calf, or even a tiger with its cubs. There is a love there. You can't deny it. Why does every being want this? Because that's who you are. Simple. You're wanting something because your desire, your core desire, is for you finding out who you are. And then once you find out who you are, you say, well, how come it's not just me, but it's also you and you and you and you? We're all like this. Oh, how come we're all like this? How come the whole world is like this? And where did that come from? And that's where you land up with trying to understand God. And then try to understand God, you land up with all kinds of pitfalls. You have all kinds of versions of God. God who punishes people, sends them to hell, does this, does that, all kinds of crazy stuff. And then you come finally to Krishna, who has got, who stands for one thing and one thing alone, love. And you say, how can I love God? Because it says in the Bible to love God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul. How do you love someone who you've never met, you know nothing about? Like, I'm not talking about the person's philosophy. You can't love someone because of their philosophy, right? They might have a whole book dedicated to them. But if you don't know what they look like, and if you don't know what they do, and if you don't know what it's like to be with that person, then how do you fall in love with them? But once you do know that, like in Krishna Lila, in the pastimes of Krishna, you get to see, oh, he's like that? Really? God can be like a little child and he can be mischievous and playful and fun loving. And wow, that's an interesting idea. What else? Oh, you can be not just have God as your father, but you can have God as your child. Oh, and you can actually get mad at him, punish him, tie him up. Really? He'll let you do that? Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's Leela. That's the pastimes that Krishna enjoys, being treated as one of us. And then it goes further. Can you be the lover of God? Can you be the friend of God? And he says, yep, all relationships are possible. Can you be married to God? Oh, yeah, yeah. You name it, all possibilities exist. What kind of relationship would you like? Anyone got a question? I'll pause here. Hey, how you doing? Hey, good to see you again. Hmm. Yeah, exactly. Mm. Forget it. You ain't going nowhere. That doesn't work. The, I've got your question. I got your question. The great Saint Kabir actually said something to that effect. He says, "Jab main tha to hari nahi." As long as I was there, I could not experience God. And now God is there, and I no longer exist. Ab hari hai, main nahi. Okay. So what you're asking is extremely relevant. Okay. Let's get down to it. There is no way to experience God as long as you are full of yourself, of your ego. The dissolution of the I is actually a coming back home. Let me explain what I mean. The I that we have thought we are, I am this body, I am man, I am woman, I'm young, I'm old, fat, I'm thin, I'm ugly, I'm stupid, I'm handsome, I'm this, I'm that. Whatever I you thought, your achievements, your successes, your education, all of that has been accumulated over the course of a lifetime. But keep in mind that you existed even before you began this lifetime. When you came in the womb of your mother, you were there. That was you, right? When they looked in that sonogram, that was you. Your mother said, "There's my baby," right? And then when you came out of the womb, that was you. You don't look like that now, but you don't look like that baby who was just born anymore. But that was you, right? In the course of time, you accumulated your cells, your muscles, your everything developed and grew from the food you ate and the things that, all of that. And then your mind grew from the knowledge you gained and the exposure you had and the people you met. And then your ego grew and the sense of self developed. Now, as long as you are living in this accumulation, it's like stuff. Okay, you have all this stuff in your house, you've accumulated all this stuff, right? If you were asked to leave this house and the country, let's say you were, let me give an example. Someone's deported, right? They got to leave everything behind, or someone's going to thrown into jail. They got to leave everything behind. They don't get to take it with them to the jail or when they get deported or something like that. They got to leave it all behind, right? So the sooner you come back, the dissolution of the ego is only a return to who you are. You're not dissolving anything. You're actually dissolving the illusion. You're dissolving all that you thought you are. You're going beyond what you thought and finding who you actually are. So that process requires a quieting of the mind. And as you quiet the mind, you begin to experience the self. You cannot see it, but you can experience it. You can also hear it as you get more fine tuned to the subtlety of the real self. So you're really just coming back home to who you are. You're not dissolving the self, you are dissolving the ego. That's what you're dissolving, right? The ego, no. The self, yeah, so I like to call it the virtual self, okay? Some call it the false ego, some call it different names. You like to use the more modern day technology. It's a virtual, it's a made up self. Okay? In the absence of the real self, right? In the absence of the real boss, a artificial boss was created, a sort of picture, a simulation of different, aspects, and an imaginary creation has been placed on the throne of this being. What we are doing is getting rid of the imaginary being, the imaginary self that was created by the mind, and we're bringing back the real self. Now you say, how is this possible? How can you do this? It is possible. It is possible by a number of different processes. Just as this ego was formed by the accumulation of data from the world and from your experiences, a new set of experiences and a new set of accumulation can occur as you begin to spend more and more time with the real self. As you start spending time with that, you begin to realize, oh, this part of me feels very loving, feels very kind. This part of me has these attributes, these qualities. It's very wise. It comes up with things that I never even thought of before. It's very insightful. It's very creative. It's very kind. It's very compassionate. You realize it has its qualities. And then you keep reinforcing these qualities, and you can actually reprogram your mind literally with the qualities of the authentic self or the real self. Yeah? So I hope that answers your question. Krishna continues here in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text number 26. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it. So, what he's now pointing out is that the currency for God, the frequency with which you communicate with God, with which you approach God, is love. And your love is not shown by how grandiose your expression might be. I donated $1 million and therefore now I am the one who should be recognized by God. No, couldn't give a damn about your $1 million or your 10 billion. Doesn't make a difference. He has everything. What he wants is our love. And so he says, even if you offer me with love and devotion a fruit, a flower, some water, right? With love and devotion, that's the key thing. I will accept it. I will accept your offering. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, whatever austerities you perform, do that as an offering to me. So Krishna is making this real easy now. He's saying, whatever you do, you have a job, do that as an offering unto me. Right? You're taking some of your old clothes and giving them away to someone, give them as an offering to Krishna. See Krishna within that homeless person that you're giving something to. Right? If you are performing some difficult austerities, maybe you're sitting down to meditate, and that's a little difficult thing to do. Do that as an offering to him. If you're eating something, in your mind, just offer this to him. Say, this is yours. I offer to you that which is yours. Right? Thank you. Thank you for this wonderful meal. It doesn't take a lot. And then he says, in this way you will be freed from bondage to work and its auspicious and inauspicious results. I got to really clarify this one. With your mind fixed on me in this principle, you will be liberated and come to me. In this way, he says, you will be freed from the bondage to work. So this is being freed from karma. Why do we keep coming back to this world again and again? Because of one word, karma. Karma means our actions, they have reactions. Those reactions might be experienced in this life or not. Very often they're like seeds. Seeds sometimes will fructify, so like grass, for example. If you plant, grass might be in a few, or weeds might be very quick. And then there'll be other kinds of seeds, like a mango tree, that might take 10 to 12 years to fructify, right? For a tree to grow and then for that tree to bear fruit, might take 10 to 12 years. So, in the same way, your karma may fructify in this life, or it may take another lifetime or two or three for it to fructify. Because sometimes people say, why are why are good people suffering and bad people seem to somehow be enjoying, having all kinds of things? There's a reason here. They are still receiving the fruits of their good karma. Right now they're engaged in bad activities, but they have a bank account they're drawing from of good karma, right? And likewise, you'll see sometimes people who are now engaged in good deeds may be suffering. They may not have much of a bank account. They may have exhausted their bank account of karma. But what Krishna is trying to tell you is how to get free from both auspicious and inauspicious results, both from good results and bad results, good karma and bad karma. How to become, because becoming free of this world, of the cycle of birth and death means becoming free of both good karma and bad karma. This is very important to understand. It's not just about becoming free of or just have do you know getting rid of your karma means both your good and bad. So why? Because only then can you come to the place of liberation. No, it's not enough. It's not enough. How? Because the process of freeing yourself from karma is very, very tricky. You cannot free yourself from karma just by not doing anything. That also won't work. Just doing good things will not be enough. Bad things, good things, or no things. None of that's going to work to free you from karma, because still you will be engaged in some way. You will still have thoughts, you will still have actions, you will still have consequences. So he says, to get free of the bondage of karma, fix your mind on me and you will be liberated and come to me. And how do you fix your mind on him? By doing whatever you do as an offering to him. It's simple. He's not saying stop working. He's not saying stop doing things. Do it as an offering for me. Why does this make a difference? Because you're no longer doing it for you. If you buy a house, recognize this is his house. If you buy a car, this is his car. It's your thought about that. It's your thought that this I offer to you, right? You may say, oh, what's so special about that? Why does it need to be offered? Is he some kind of a, you know, greedy guy that he needs everyone to offer everything to him? No, no, no. You're not doing it for him. He already owns everything. Everything was his before you got it. Everything will be his after you're gone from this world. It was always his. What you're doing is like what they do at the river Ganga. They will go to the river Ganga, they will take the water of the Ganga and they will pour it back into the Ganga as an offering. Or think of a child who's in the house and the little baby comes along to mommy or daddy and says, and gives them their shoes. It's the mommy and daddy's shoes, they own the shoes, but the kid sees they're going somewhere and they want to give them the shoes. It's their act of love. Or the kid wants to feed them something. The food belongs to mommy and daddy. They're the ones who gave it to the kid, but the kid is taking the food and placing it in mommy's mouth. And mommy goes, that is so cute, so adorable. And so it's the same thing with Krishna. When Krishna sees you offering something to him, he says, this is so cute, so adorable. You are so adorable. And you touch his heart with that little offering of love. It's not something big. It's not a big, huge thing you've got to do. It's the intent. It's the mood. It's the feeling with which you offer it. That makes a difference. Any questions? Any doubts? Any concerns? Krishna continues, chapter 9, text number 29. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. So on one hand, he's saying he's equal to everyone, he's partial to no one, right? But someone who renders service to him in devotion becomes his friend. Isn't that how you are with your friends? Those who are considerate of you, who are kind to you, who appreciate you, do you not have a little special place in your heart for them? And so it is with Krishna. And he says, is this such a person is a friend, is in me meaning he's in my heart, and I am also a friend to him. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service. He is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination. He quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. He quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. Declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. Okay, now this is super important and very tricky to understand. Krishna is saying that even if someone has come on this path and understood that there is nothing greater than to worship Him, to worship God, to love Him. Because worship, in Krishna makes it very clear, worship is not about these bells you ring and the temples you go to and the incense you wave. That's not about worship. He says they worship me with their heart. That is worship. So he says one who's come on this path and is worshiping Him, such a person, even if they stray, even if they engage in the most abominable acts, He doesn't let them go. He brings them back, brings them on track, teaches them as required, so that they reform themselves and they change their ways. And so he says, he quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. So he's not talking about some you're saved kind of thing, and you're therefore going, just doesn't matter what you've done, just chant a few Hail Marys and Ave Marias and, you'll be fine. I heard that the Sicilian mafia took great advantage of this. They would go out, commit murders, and then they'd come back and they'd go to the priest and they'd say, "Priest, Father, I have killed so many people." They get confession, and then the father would say, "Okay, we'll just go chant so many Hail Marys and Ave Marias, and you'll be forgiven." They'd do that, come back next week again. "I've killed so many people, Father," and once again the cycle would continue. This is described in the Bhagavatam as an elephant taking a bath. When it goes, it takes a bath, gets all washed up, then he comes out and he picks up dirt from the bank of the river and throws it on himself and becomes dirty all over again, right? So um, what Krishna is saying is very different. He's saying this person is rightly situated. They have come to me. I will not let them go. I will bring them back so that they become righteous, so that they find lasting peace. One who has found lasting peace will no longer be engaged in crazy, abominable actions. That good. One who has become righteous will no longer engage in those kind of activities. I will purify this person. I will make sure of that. There's a saying once, I think one of the great devotees, I think Prabhupada said this, that once you come in Krishna's orbit, he never lets you go. Maybe that some of you guys are stuck around. I don't know. You've been around with me for quite some time. I'm deeply grateful for that. But maybe it's Krishna. Maybe it has nothing to do with me. Krishna said, "Okay, I got you now. I'm not letting you go." Krishna's like that. He finds a place in your heart. And he has you coming back for more and more and more. Because it's this insatiable appetite that we start to develop. I know I did. I know that it started off, I don't know what these people are. I don't know. I'm not so sure. I was like that when I was 19. And then gradually, as I kept listening and I kept listening, a certain taste developed, a ruchi, a certain pleasure. I began to find that as I read more and as I heard more, a certain ecstasy would arise within me, a certain feeling of timelessness, a certain feeling of joy. The more I heard about Krishna, the more joyous I felt inside. It's almost as if I'd come home. There was a feeling of, okay, I was seeking answers all my life. I've this feels, and then of course I had to test it out. I had to test it with the different other teachings and see how it all fits in and how they all work together. And they do. It's amazing how well they work together. How well every single teaching in the world, it's like different rivers. They all lead to this river of bhakti, of devotion. And then he says, "Declare it boldly, my devotee never perishes." Never. So, O son of Pritha, those who take shelter in me, be they of lower birth, can attain the supreme destination. Now, it will be said that in those times, in that place, women were sometimes considered of lower birth. Vaishyas, and we're talking about a cultural time, a culture at that time. Vaishyas or merchants, Shudras, workers, were considered of lower birth than the Brahmins and the priests and the kings. So it is referring to lower than the kings and the priests. But actually, the greatest devotees of Krishna were women. And there's a reason for it. Because for them, for the gopis, or for his mother, Yashoda, um, to love was a lot easier. Men tend to be still more intellectual and heady and, thinking about things philosophical. Not that women aren't, but it is much easier for women to be soft, for their hearts to be softer, to feel more deeply. It is harder for a man. You struggle with it. There are many men who have completely melted out their hearts. There's no doubt about that. And there are many women who have hardened their hearts and become very protective. So, I mean, there are always people at all ends of the spectrum. But broadly speaking, it's much easier for a woman to be emotional, to love, and to give herself. And that is what the women who loved Krishna did. And so they are considered the highest devotees of all. How much more? This is so of the righteous Brahmins, the devotees, and the saintly kings. Therefore, having come to this temporary, miserable world, engage in loving service to me. Engage your mind in always, and this is, I think, perhaps the most important verse of all. Engage your mind always in thinking of me. Become my devotee, offer obeisance to me, and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. So, how do you think of Krishna all the time? Some people would say, chant the mantra, Hare Krishna, or take the name of Krishna all the time. And that is very true, but it's very hard to do. It's not something you can do all the time. Of course, I found one thing: mantras are very powerful. As you hear mantras or as you chant them, they tend to play in your head. That is why they're so powerful. Instead of your mind talking to you, the mantra is now talking. Because your mind is like a recorder. It tends to record whatever it is that it hears, whatever it is that someone said, whatever it is that you said. It tends to record stuff. You hear a song on the radio, your mind picks it up, and now it starts playing it back to you. But if you've been chanting a mantra, your mind will play that back to you. So chances are that if you're engaged in chanting a mantra, you will keep hearing that mantra. It will keep your mind from going into other things, right? How else can you think of him? By what he said earlier, that whatever you do, do it as an offering to me. Right? Whoever you see them as an aspect of Krishna, see them as an aspect of God. And in that way, you will always be connected to him. Offer obeisance to me and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. So he's giving his promise again and again and again that surely you will come to him. Surely you will become free from the cycle of birth and death. Surely. But he's not saying that you will do this by hundreds of years of penance and austerity. He is saying simply by thinking of him, remembering him. So there are other ways also to remember Krishna. You can read his stories. There are these lovely books called, Krishna Books. They spell them Krsna. So if you look in Amazon, you will come across the Krishna stories. You can read the stories about Krishna. They've got beautiful illustrations in there, and you'll enjoy reading that. So you can meditate on his pastimes. You can read books like the Bhagavad Gita, but the pastimes are beautiful. The pastimes will tell you a lot about what he does, what is special about him. And I'm sure you'll have lots of questions after you expose yourself, once you read some of that. You'll say, why does Krishna do this? And why does he do that? And what's this going on? What's that going on? So do read that. Read the Krishna stories, and you will enjoy learning more about the life of Krishna. I think if I have it here, I think I downloaded it as a PDF too, so I might be able to show you some of the. Um, oh yeah, I think I know where it is. I'll show you a little bit of what they look like. Does anyone have any questions before we wind up today? Mm. Yes, it is. Absolutely. No, we won't solve it tonight, but I'll give you something on that because I think it's such a powerful question. And I do have a few minutes. So, um, the first thing to know is this: yes, there is good and bad, and most of that is dictated by society, by our laws, and perhaps even by the religions. But Krishna's world is beyond good and bad, beyond good and evil, beyond right and wrong. Okay? The moralistic code that humans live by, you'll find that because this is a part of the world of duality. In the world of duality, there needs to be a code to live by. But in the spiritual world, there is no duality, and it is not about a code. What is so let's go. Let me take you a little bit deeper on this. Shakespeare said, "There is no right or wrong, but thinking makes it so." Right. So our thinking is what makes something right or wrong, and that thinking could be a collective thinking by society or by religion. Right. If there is one law that I find that is universal, and that is the law of free will. Each one of us has been given free will to do as we wish and face the consequences, of course, right? When we act against the free will of another, then that is an act of violence to the other. There is karma for that. So you ask me, is there a right and a wrong? Yes, there is. It primarily lies around the law of free will, as I've come to understand it. If somebody gives me money, that's a gift. But if I take their money, that's theft. If that person gets caught, that is their immediate karma. But if they didn't get caught, they will have the karmic influence in time to come. They will pay the price because they acted against the free will of someone else, right? So, two people want to be together and have sex, that's consensual sex. But if somebody acts against the free will of another, that is rape, right? If the government asks you to go out in battle and you kill, you're not going to be arrested for that. But you're back in civilization and you kill, you'll be arrested for that. Same act, killing. But one, you're a hero, and the other, you're a criminal, right? So those are the circumstances. And if you look at Krishna's life, he doesn't follow these moralistic codes. He goes by his own code. And then he tells Arjun to follow that code. All right, we shall wind up for today. And thank you all for being here. Oh, I was going to show you a little bit of Krishna's stories just for a moment. Here. And you see here they've been stealing butter and they're being caught. Oh, this page doesn't move. I'm sorry, I can't seem to change the page now. Huh. Okay. Look for the book yourself, and that's the only way I can do it. I can't change this. All right, guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much. I have another meetup that is coming up at 8:15 for Loving Soulfully. I've brought it back to Zoom. We try to take it off to another platform, but we're back again here on Zoom. Those of you that want to stay on, please stay. And we'll continue. And for the rest of you, I'll see you back again next week on Tuesday. All right. Bye. Bye. You're welcome. You're welcome. Bye. Stay on if you like.